Hello and welcome to the Software Sustainability Institute's webinar on round two of our Research Software Maintenance Fund. My name is Neil Chu-Hong, Director of the Software Sustainability Institute, and with me online are my colleagues from the RSMF grants team, Anna and Giacomo, who we'll be hearing from later on in this webinar. And we also have Oscar, who is our fellowship manager, who's here as a member of the Arts and Humanities community. So in this webinar, we will be describing various aspects of the fund and how to apply for it. The webinar will be recorded and it will be shared via the Research Software Maintenance Fund web pages. There is no chat function, so if you want to raise a question, please use the Q&A function, which you can normally find at the bottom of your screen. We will either answer these questions using the Q&A function during the webinar, or if we don't have the time to cover them all, then we will copy them and answer them as part of the frequently asked questions section on the RSMF website. So please do put in those questions, and if you have any additional questions that you have after this webinar, please feel free to email grants@software.ac.uk. We'll be putting up more information about how to get in contact with us at the end of the webinar as well. So what is the Research Software Maintenance Fund? This is a £4.8 million fund from UKRI's Digital Research Infrastructure Programme, and it's managed by the Software Sustainability Institute on behalf of UKRI. It's got two main goals. One is to support and sustain the key research software that underpins the research and scholarship ecosystem, and I'll talk about what we mean by research software in a couple of slides' time. And also to understand how to more effectively provide support to reduce things like technical debt, again, something I'll describe, and grow engagement with research software. So part of it is about funding software that's being used in research and scholarship in the UK, and part of it is understanding how to better support this kind of software, as we hope other programs will be launched similar to this. So there's a lot of work that's going on here. If you are interested in this, please get in touch with the SSI. Broadly speaking, funders worldwide are looking to try and come together to make the process of applying for funding for software maintenance easier and more accessible to people. So where are we with the Research Software Maintenance Fund and what's available? So we've already had one round of funding, which funded two types of awards, large awards and small awards. We funded 13 projects in all from a wide variety of different disciplinary areas. And if you want to find out more about these projects, you can look at the website. The second and final round for the Research Software Maintenance Fund has £1.8 million available, and we are only offering small awards this time. So that's up to £150,000 with a maximum duration of 1 year. We are expecting to fund approximately 10 projects as part of this round. If you are from a UK research organisation, such as a higher education institution, a university, or a research council research institute, then you will be using something known as full economic costing. And as with most normal UKRI grants, we will fund 80% of your full economic costs. If you have partners as part of your application, perhaps from business, charity or third sector, or governments, or international partners, then the costs that they can apply for will depend on the type of partner and a number of other things. You can find more information on the website about this, or please do send us an email if you have any questions about what are eligible costs for other types of partners. All costing should be at current prices. As this is a 1 year grant, there is no inflationary uplift on the grant. So what do we mean by research software? It is a term that is deliberately encompassing a large different sets of tools, platforms, applications, and software. So it It's basically anything that's used computational code, scripts, tools, and platforms that are essential for supporting research and scholarship within a discipline or perhaps across multiple disciplines. So, some examples of things that you might see as being research software include tools for doing text annotation, tools for supporting a digital corpus, things that could be used to do specialized image processing for a research or scholarship purpose, things that help you with qualitative data analysis or tagging, statistical modeling. So it's deliberately very wide and encompassing. So research software is effectively anything computational, data processing, data management that involves some element of code or scripts or software or platforms. Um, if you want to find some more examples of types of software that are present in the arts and humanities and the social sciences, there's some SSI reports that are linked from these slides. But you already have a very good idea, I think, of what counts as research software in your own disciplines. If you have any questions, again, please do just get in touch with us so that we can provide any advice that you might need. What we're looking for this, as it's a maintenance fund, is proposals that are about helping to improve the sustainability and maintenance of existing research software. So, what do we mean by this? Existing research software means that it's got to be a piece of software, a tool, a code that is already in use and is already in use by people outside of the immediate team that have developed it or are maintaining it. So this isn't a fund for software that's only used within your own team. It must have external users as well. Um, when we talk about maintenance, we sometimes use a term called technical debt. This is similar to other sorts of debt. It means that if you haven't had the chance to be able to do enough regular maintenance, the burden can accumulate and it becomes harder and harder to be able to maintain the software. So this fund is particularly for pieces of software which have built up technical debt and are looking to reduce this. It can also be used for things like improving the user experience, maybe improving accessibility, and for building community and improving governance. So ensuring that the software is set up so that it becomes easier to maintain, easier to govern, and easier for the community to use on a long-term basis. Uh, the software must have been deployed or distributed or published. So what that means is that it's available to people. It's not something that is internal in a version that other people can use. It doesn't have to be open source, but we do encourage the use of open source licenses. Um, as this is a UK fund funded by UKRI, the software must support research or scholarship that's carried out in the UK. But it is fine if the software originally was started outside of the UK and is now used within the UK, or it supports researchers both inside and outside of the UK, or is developed by people both inside or outside the UK. In fact, we think that if software is being used and developed outside of the UK as well as inside the UK, this is a big benefit to the research and scholarship communities. And this is a specific call for people from the arts and humanities and social sciences domains. And we're doing this because we noticed that in round one, we did not get as many applications as we think would be present in these communities into the Research Software Maintenance Fund. And we're looking to encourage more applications this time in round two. Finally, we encourage engagement with your local research software engineers and engineering teams. We encourage you to collaborate with other people who can help you with the longer term development and creation of roadmaps for development around your software. So again, if this is something that you don't know how to do, please do either get in touch with us or get in touch with the Society for Research Software Engineering in the UK, who can point you to people who might be interested in collaborating with you on a proposal. So, what sorts of software do we think are appropriate for funding in the Research Software Maintenance Fund? This is an example of the life cycle for software development and the sorts of grants that tend to support things. The early stages, where you're going from an idea to a prototype and something that can be used for research and scholarship by your close collaborators, these are not the stages which we would be funding here. We would expect that to be funded through more standard research grants or often called like responsive mode in or investigator-led research. What we're looking for is to fund software which has gone beyond those stages and is the sorts of things where you are supporting its use by external users or you've created a product around it so it can be used at scale by many people across multiple different organizations. So it's important to say that the Research Software Maintenance Fund does not fund the novel development of new software. So it's not about taking a research idea and turning it into a piece of software. It's about taking an existing piece of software and helping to maintain and support it for the long term. Who can apply? So if you are applying, the lead of the project must be based at a UK research organisation that's eligible for UKRI funding at the time of application. So these include most UK universities, Research Council institutes, some NHS funded research entities, and also a number of different UKRI registered independent research organizations and PSREs. The lead, which was often known as a principal investigator previously, should be someone with a senior responsible role for the software, but they don't need to be an academic or a researcher. They also don't need to have had an existing grant before. From our perspective, it should be the person who is most appropriate for this work. So that might be, for instance, the project manager for the work, or the lead developer, or the product manager. However, we do appreciate that some universities and institutions will place restrictions on the lead. And so if it's the case for you where your institution requires an academic to be the project lead, please do just like mention this in your application. It will not be held against you as part of the reviewing process. Co-leads can be from other organizations, including outside the UK. So we do encourage collaboration outside the UK. And these other organizations can also receive funding as part of this proposal, including for staffing. So please do name your co-leads and collaborators as early as possible so that we can identify potential conflicts of interest in review processes. And note that no more than 50% of the co-leads can be from business, third sector, government, or international organizations. Finally, each project lead is allowed to submit only one proposal. This is different from round one, where we allowed multiple expressions of interest from project leads. Here, we're only allowing one expression of interest from each project lead. And finally, before I hand over to my colleague Anna, a little bit about how your application will be assessed. There is a two-stage process. First of all, an expression of interest phase, and then some of these expressions of interest will be invited for full application. So in the expression of interest phase, we are using something called distributed peer review, which is a type of process that has been started to be used for some of the UKRI program calls, where the applicants themselves review the proposals. So I'll explain a little bit more about how this will work. But the first stage will be a distributed peer review with a rebuttal phase. And as a result of this, the scoring and ranking will be used to identify which applications will go forward to full application and invited there. At the full application stage, we will go through a peer review panel of externally identified experts, which will review and then discuss the applications and provide a ranking order for the applications, which will then be used to determine who is funded. Um, in both the expression of interest phase and the full application phase, we may use portfolio balancing in addition to rank to inform the decisions. What this means is that if, for instance, there are highly reviewed proposals coming from particular areas that are not ranking in the overall list as high as some of the others. So, for instance, let's say we had the top three proposals all coming from the digital humanities, and then another proposal coming from biochemistry, and then another proposal coming from forestry, and we could only fund three proposals. We may choose to fund one or two of the digital humanities proposals and then the biochemistry proposal. So there is an element where we may choose for portfolio balancing to go down the list so that we are able to have a more accurate representation of the sort of wide variety of software that is used in the UK in research and scholarship. Um, Please note that we may share some of the application and review data with reviewers and observers and with UKRI, as well as with an external program evaluator. The details of what is shared are in the terms and conditions and in the application form themselves. So finally, before I hand over, I would say a little bit about the distributed peer review system. So in the expression of interest phase, you are agreeing to participate in distributed peer review. What this means is that you will be assigned other expressions of interest that have been submitted into the call, and you will be expected to read these proposals, rate them, and provide feedback to your fellow applicants following the rules and guidelines. If you don't provide these reviews by the deadline, we reserve the right to reject your proposal. And likewise, if your reviews and feedback are to be found of poor quality, then we may choose to withdraw your proposal as well. We will be putting in place different systems to help ensure that these proposals are reviewed fairly and that we cannot game the system. So, as I mentioned, there have been a number of other calls from UKRI that have used this system and have provided feedback on best practices for how to run distributed peer review. Some of the elements here include that you will never be asked to review from the same pool of proposals as the one yours are in. So what we will do is first of all, split proposals by disciplinary areas, but then also split them into at least two pools within each of those broader disciplinary areas to ensure that you cannot influence directly the scores that are being compared against your own application. We'll also be doing some spot checks and having some independent review to ensure that people's reviews are fair and as accurate as they can be. So finally, what are the assessment criteria? There are four assessment criteria, and these will be applied across both the expressions of interest and the full application. However, the way that they'll be applied are slightly different because of the detail that we're asking you to provide at each stage. So the four criteria are eligibility. So is the application in scope and eligible for research software maintenance funding? So that includes is the lead eligible? Is the software research software that meets the criteria? And are the partners and the budget within the scope of what can be funded. Second assessment criteria is the vision and impact. So this is basically you talking about what will happen as a result of the work that's being funded and what the impact will be both on the software and on the research or scholarship community that it uses the software. The third assessment criteria is feasibility and approach. So this is about how you will choose to do the work. Are the objectives clear? Are the steps that you'll take to do the work clear? And does this link well to the vision and the impact? And then the fourth criteria is around capability to deliver. So this is the skills and ability in the team that you've formed, and also your procedures for things like management, governance, external engagement, and so on. Okay. In the expression of interest, we will be asking for a number of different things that fit these different categories. If you want to find out more, there is some information that is shared as part of the application form itself. You're able to download a PDF version of all of the questions that are being asked, along with the guidance that's there as part of the grant submission platform. So, um, oh, one more slide. Sorry. In the full application, we'll ask for more details on some of these areas, and it's at that point that you'll be asked for things like the detailed description of work, including milestones and deliverables, the full budget and justification of costs. That's also where we'll ask you to get things like project partner letters of support. In the expression of interest, we just ask you to note potential collaborators. And we'll also be asking you, as part of the full application, to talk about how you'll measure the progress of the work and how you'll address concerns around equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility. Okay. Um, As part of the application process for our own monitoring and evaluation, we will ask for some demographic data as well. That's career stage and role, gender, ethnic group, and um, disability impairment condition or access need. This is fully optional, but we do encourage people to provide this information. You can see some of the ways in which we've used this information as part of the Research Software Maintenance Fund website, where we've done some analysis around the different people who've been applying and whether there are any areas where we think there should be additional support that needs to be provided based on the analysis of round one. And we'll be doing the same thing for round two as well, and providing these recommendations to UKRI. Okay, I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Anna, who's going to talk through the process of uh, actually submitting things on our platform. So over to you, Anna.
Thank you. Hi. I hope you are all hearing me now fine and you are not getting any echo. Apologies for that. As Neil explained, there is quite a number of steps that the whole application process takes. Even just for the expression of interest, it's not just submit your application and be done with things. All of these activities will take place on the grants application platform that is called Good Grants. So you can just click on the digital research infrastructure.grantplatform.com and that will bring you to the starting page of this. You can also find the link on the fund's website, and we will also circulate the slides after the webinar. So don't worry if you cannot type fast enough to get there right now. So you will need to register on the platform in the first place. That will require your email address and a password. Now, this email address doesn't need to be your institutional email address. It can be whatever email you want to use there. We share this platform with other funding calls. Right now, there is active charted calls. So when you get to the starting page, you might find different logos apart from just the Software Sustainability Institute. So don't worry about it, you are in the right place. You can read all about all the calls that are open or to be open on the main page. So feel free to do that. And if you scroll sufficiently far down, you will get to the actual start application buttons. Um, let's see, can I get the next one? Thank you. So once you are registered and clicked on the start application button, or just if you get inside the platform's homepage, you will again get all the logos of everything that is currently open. And you will notice that on the very top of the page, there is a set of tabs or different spaces that you can go within the platform. So for starting your application, you want to be in the apply tab. So it's the gray bar on top, the apply one. When we do the distributed peer review, and you will do this with your reviewers head on, you will need to go to the review tab. So in the apply tab, you will again see all the things that are currently open that you could apply for. Find the research software maintenance round to expression of interest and click on the start application there. That's how you get in. That's where you start your application. Note that at the very bottom of this space, there is kind of like smallish header that says my applications. And that's where you would see all the applications that you have started in process. You can do some basic applications management from there. So you can duplicate your application in case you want to try something else, or you can delete an application that you have already created if you're not happy with it, or anything like that. That is also where you will find the feedback on your applications. So once there is feedback available, if you go to the My Application space, the application that has feedback with it will have a little view feedback button next to it. So that's where you will find what the reviewers thought. Once you actually start the application, you will see something like what you see on the right screenshot. That says that this is the application for the Research Software Maintenance Fund, the expression of interest. In the start here, on the first page, you need to name your application. And once your application has a name, the system will start automatically saving it and backing it up. It's something like every 3 seconds. So the update is near instant. So you don't need to be actively saving things for changes to take place. You might notice the tabs on top of the application that match on the criteria, the assessment criteria that Neil was describing earlier. So there's the eligibility tab that has questions about questions and spaces for you to tell us how your software meets the criteria of the call. There's the vision and impact, feasibility and approach, capability to deliver, and also the demographic data. At the bottom of each of these tabs, there is a set of buttons. So you can just save whatever you have done and move on to the next tab, and it will just progress in order. But you can also pick a different tab and just jump and start filling different things if you would prefer. You can save and close your application. You can preview, so it will give you a PDF view of how this would lay out for the reviewers. Lastly, once you will have filled all the required information in, you can submit your application. That will not lock your application. So you can submit it, your application will be submitted at that point, but you can also still go back and make any changes that you wish all the time until the expressions of interest close. For this, it's important that you remember where you can delete your applications, because you can, at any one point, you can have only one application submitted. So if you make some major changes, you duplicate your application to make something major, and you try to submit the other version, you cannot do that. You need to go back to your applications, delete the first one, and submit the next one. If you run into any issues within the platform, if you are trying to do something and it just doesn't seem to have the effect that you would want, you can always email us and we will try to help you. Yeah, few slides back, Neil was talking you through all the questions that you can find in the different tabs, and that there is a word limit on providing most of the answers, really. You will see live count with each of the text fields where you can type your answers. We have seen that sometimes the word count that is displayed there is slightly off. So it says that you still have few words left until you reach the limit, but the application wouldn't submit that because sometimes it unfortunately miscounts, and says that you have maybe 498 words while actually you are already over the limit. So if you run into that, the easiest is to just try to remove few words and see whether it would let you submit at that point. We apologize for that. We hope that the platform will fix it soon. But if it doesn't, you might need to count yourself or use some external text editor. Can I get the next slide? Yeah. So you need to submit an application for the application to enter the review process. For that, you need to fill in all the required information and get to hit the submit application button successfully at least once through you making the changes. The changes will take effect nearly immediately, so you don't need to worry if you close your laptop or close the tab or something. The changes should always be there. And yes, you can make any changes all the time right up until the call closes. You should also see a countdown, how much time is left until the call closes. So that might be useful information as well. Yeah, I'll hand over to Giacomo now, who will tell you what happens. Oh, actually, before that, we appreciate there's quite a lot of steps and that the process may not be entirely clear in its entirety to you right now. That's fine. We will be sending information. So we will be using the broadcast function from the platform that will allow us to reach everyone who has an application or who submitted an application, or all the reviewers that you will be receiving from Good Grants, the grant platform. We might also email you, but that wouldn't be that is not the primary choice. And the general kind of like wider public information might also be published as a blog or news article on the fund's website. But if you can keep an eye on the broadcasts, you will know what to do at what point, and we will be sending instructions as we go. There. Over to Giacomo.
Can I mute? Great. Hello, everybody. So once a project is funded, so the earliest start date for projects from round two is October 2026. All projects must be completed by the 19th of February 2028. No cost extensions are allowed as long as projects are completed by that date. We follow standard UKRI financial and reporting practices. An outputs management plan must be provided no later than 1 month after the start of the award, and a template is provided for that. Reporting is quarterly against grantee defined indicators using our template. Invoicing is quarterly in arrears for actual costs, along with a short financial statement in justifications of, of the expenses. At the end of the project, we will require a final report covering achievements, outcome, challenges, and future plans. All intellectual property remains with the project, but we encourage the use of open licenses. A bit of key dates. 28th of January 2026 is the opening date, was the opening date for the expressions of interest. The 25th of February 2026 is the closing date of the expressions of interest. 20 March 2026, the distributed peer reviews will be completed. 25th to 26th of March, rebuttals. The rebuttals will be open and completed. around mid-April 2026, there will be invitations to full proposals. Around mid-May 2026, it will be the closing date for the full proposals. Uh, Sometime in early July 2026, there will be the rebuttals for the full proposals. And in July 2026, the final decisions will be communicated. Great. Thank you. And yeah, finally, you can find all the information that you need in the web page for the RSMF round two, uh, along with templates, the grant agreement, and frequently asked questions. You can email us for any question that you find not answered on the website. Also, we are circulating these slides, and here are a few other links of interest. A link for the areas, the UKRI areas of arts and humanities and social sciences, and also a couple of links around which explain the eligible costs for UKRI funded grants. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We've had a few questions that are in the Q&A around some different areas. Whilst I give you all a chance to put in some more questions that you may have had as a result of the webinar, I'll quickly recap some of the questions that have been asked. There was a question about whether there will be increased funding allocated to the arts and humanities and social sciences areas compared to the others for this round. So we do expect that there will be an increased proportion of funding for arts and humanities and social sciences in round two compared to round one. There is no set quota though or limit. This will be assessed once we've received in the expressions of interest. We do want to kind of reiterate though that what you will have here is effectively a separate pipeline for expressions of interest to invites for full applications for the arts and humanities and for the social sciences, so that you're not directly competing against the other sciences, but rather that you will be competing against other applications from your general area. Likewise, there was a question about the external experts at the full application stage, whether they're coming from the specific discipline or are they more general research software experts. We would love it for it to be reviewed by the experts in each discipline. However, you, as the applicant, are probably the expert in the discipline. So what we have instead are people who are drawn from the broader area. So, for instance, if you are someone who's done something, for instance, a history tool, then you will be reviewed by a combination of people from the broader humanities and people who have expertise in software development and in community engagement. Yeah, it's more of a general expertise in that area. There was a question around whether the software can be used, has to be used directly for research, or whether it can be something that's more adjacent. For these things, it's quite hard to give an exact answer. What we would recommend is if you are uncertain, send an email to grants@software.ac.uk with more details about how that software is used and who uses it, and then we can give you some guidance around that. And there was a question that was around the project lead and whether they need to have a permanent position. From our perspective, they don't need to. However, many research organizations do have rules around this, so please do get in touch with your own organization's appropriate team. It's often your research office. to find out whether they have any restrictions. For many organizations, the restriction is that you must have a contract that is lasting for the duration of the proposed grant. But for something like this, there may be some opportunities. Again, speak to your organization about that. And there was a question about SSI providing legal and governance advice. We can provide some general advice and point you to some other organizations, but we encourage you to speak to your research office and legal department if there are specific questions around things like IP or data protection or collaboration agreements, as they will know the specific requirements from your organization for doing this. There's a question about eligible costs. So can you employ contractors? And from our perspective, you can do this. So you can either choose to have partners who provide this, or you can subcontract. And this would particularly be the case for specialist types of roles. And can funds be used for hosting software online? Yes, but this is not meant to be the you can apply for costs for this, but it should not be the only and major cost. This is principally around trying to improve the maintenance. So if it's only applying for software hosting costs without anything that's addressing longer term maintenance, then it would not be eligible. Does the PI need to have a strong track record of grants? No. You just need to have be able to prove that you are the best person to lead this particular project. Okay. All right. Okay, so we've got a question that says, I intended to be a co-lead. You mentioned that there is only one submission per application. I'm happy to be part of peer review, but without a submission, how to do this. So in this case, as a co-lead, it's only the project leads that will be asked to participate in the distributed peer review. In this case, I would suggest that you keep in touch with us. There are plenty. If what you're trying to do is get more experience at peer review, there are plenty of opportunities to be able to do this, not just through this fund, but through some other similar funds. Yeah, do get in touch with us if we've misinterpreted that question. Is there a risk that the portfolio rebalancing may end up disfavoring applications in humanities and social sciences, or will the rebalancing applied across the two rounds? Yes, so we will be looking to do this at both. Will the rebalancing be applied across the two rounds? It will only be applied across this round, round two. We already applied it to round one to do something similar. However, the challenge that we had in round one was simply a insufficient number of applications coming into the expressions of interest from the arts and humanities and the social sciences. Okay. So a question about a web app that's used for research and has an extensive user base that comes with code that is undocumented and therefore can't be maintained, updated. Would you only fund documentation and maintenance of existing code, or would porting the data to a different infrastructure also be eligible for funding? That is an interesting question. I think here it would depend on whether that other infrastructure was also something that was also something that fell under the scope of the Research Software Maintenance Fund, and that the application included people from both the existing web app and also the proposed infrastructure that the data is being ported to. It's an interesting one. I think in this case, this is one where it's probably in scope, but it would depend a little bit about whether the work was being done to ensure that the infrastructure the data was being ported to was also improving the long-term maintenance of that software infrastructure. Okay. I think that is all of the open questions. Just now, in case there are some additional questions that come in, I'm going to go on and give some examples of things that might be funded and things that might not be funded. So, as some examples of types of activities that might be funded as part of the Research Software Maintenance Fund applications. So you might choose to apply for something like a dedicated amount of time. So for a sort of a sprint, which is where you get a number of people working together in close collaboration to tackle a backlog of issues on a piece of research software. So this is something where, and then the second one, this is something which is a bit like the question that had been asked around you might want to be integrating two existing pieces of research software to improve the user experience because it is enabling the amount of effort that's there to maintain them to be combined and perhaps make it more efficient to kind of maintain on the longer term. You might choose to do something that's called refactoring a code base. So what this might mean is looking through the software code, identifying areas that may require to be completely rebuilt to enable future development to be more stable, and then apply for funding to do that. You could apply for a community event that might connect you with existing external users and get their input into things like what requirements they have in the future, how they want to be involved in the process for governance, and so on. You might choose to have an activity that's around production of case studies using the software to make it easier for people to use and understand how they might use it. Documentation and training to attract new contributors. So in the example where that someone had put in the Q&A where it's something that is not documented well, if in this case what your aim was to try and get more people to contribute, you could apply for funding to improve the documentation and to do things like training or hackathons. Or you could do something which is more around the governance, so an activity around setting up a foundation, doing something which is called identifying a fiscal sponsor. So a fiscal sponsor is a third-party organization that can do things like handling HR for contractors who might be working on your software or taking in money, so you can apply for money from philanthropic organizations or from business and not have to route that through a university, which may not be appropriate if it's small amounts of money. So those are some examples of activities that we can fund. Some examples of things that we won't fund as part of the Research Software Maintenance Fund. So as I mentioned before, we won't fund the development of an idea into new software, new prototype software. We won't fund the initial creation of a user community for software that was previously only used internally. So as part of your application, we are asking you to show the user community that you've already built. It doesn't need to be a global user community. It doesn't need to be necessarily something that spans outside of your disciplinary area, but you have to show that you've been able to build a community of users that are external to your own kind of team and close collaborators. We won't fund the maintenance software which isn't principally used in research. As an example of this, a lot of people use Excel in research. We will not be funding Microsoft to develop Excel. However, there might be something that has been built on top of Excel, which then we could potentially fund if it was principally used in research. We won't fund it if it is an application coming from a team which has no existing relationship with the software. So if there is a piece of software that you think is really good and that you're a user of, but you're not part of the development team, we'd suggest that you at least go to the development team and ask for a letter of support or a collaboration with them as part of your application. Because what we're looking to see is ensure that anything that you do will be fed back to the to that software. We won't fund prototyping of new features. We expect you to get other funding for that. There are some exceptions which are around improving maintenance. Uh, we don't fund the setting up of software for use in new organizations. So this is not about an organization seeking to, for instance, start using a new tool and for us to pay for that. And we also don't fund research itself as the primary purpose. So if what you're proposing to do is actually just research, you should be applying for a research grant there. Okay, I will go back to the Q&A, and there's one more one more question there. Can you circulate further information on fiscal sponsors? Yes, so we can do something there. The main fiscal sponsors that operate in this space are two organizations called NUM Focus and Code for Science and Society. And you can sort of see from their websites the different sorts of projects that they support. These tend to be projects which are kind of larger general purpose pieces of software. So, as an example, there are things like NumPy, which is a numerical library for Python, is with NumFocus as a fiscal sponsor, I believe. And there are things like again, I'm a Python person, so all these examples are Python. Bokeh, which is a visualization library for Python as well. However, there are some tools that are more discipline specific. From the top of my head, I believe there are a number of neuroscience and psychology tools that use fiscal sponsors, but we can try and provide some more information on that. There is a uh, Q&A. There's a question from something about should a letter of support from the development and research infrastructure team at my university be included in the final application already at the expression of interest stage? For things like this, we at the expression of interest stage, please mention that the development and research infrastructure team will be involved and how they'll be involved. And that will be part of the section on either or both of the team and capability to deliver, as well as the feasibility and approach. But we don't require the letter of support until the full application stage. Okay. Um, it is now 5 minutes to the hour. Thank you very much for everyone who has joined live on this webinar and for all of the questions you provided. As I said earlier, we do encourage applications from the arts and humanities and social sciences communities. If there are other questions and specific questions that you have, please do get in touch with us at grants@software.ac.uk. And also, if there are things that you believe would be helpful for us to do or for us to recommend be done in future examples of these types of calls that would improve your ability to apply, please let us know. We may not be able to implement it for round two, but as I said, part of the reason why we're doing these funding calls is also to identify how we do this better in the future across all sorts of funding calls of this type. So if you do have specific recommendations or feedback about how you think we should run these calls to improve the ability of people from the arts and humanities and from the social sciences to apply for funding, let us know. and we will be passing those back both to UKRI and also through an international research software funders forum that's organized by the Research Software Alliance. So yes, please be assured that any feedback you give us will have a home and will be taken seriously by the people who are funding things in this area. So I'd like to thank my colleagues, to Anna and Giacomo, and also to Oscar for their help here. And all I can say now is good luck. I hope we see your applications at the expression of interest stage. And I wish you the best of luck both with your work and the rest of your day.